Hey everybody, Fetty here. I'm off on a little different kind of project than I normally do. This is one of them brownie points kind of projects. I've got a good friend of mine. She's been pissed at me for the better part of a year over a stunt that I pulled. And I know that you'd like to hear that story, but I'm not going to tell you, so don't even ask me. But anyway, this is a dresser that belonged to her mama, and her mama recently passed away. And she's wanting to kind of restore and renew this dresser. Now, like a lot of girls, she kind of has a vision for how this thing ought to look or how she wants it to look. And that's a vision that guys like me, I kind of have a hard time catching, but I'm just going to be a good soldier and follow instructions. And what she wants to do is paint the outside of this dresser and paint the face frame and leave the drawers alone and just leave them as they are. Now, this is one of those pieces of furniture, that 60s era, and I know you know what I'm talking about, that 60s era furniture that's that real glossy, kind of a plasticky, glossy kind of finish on it. I hate that stuff. I can't stand it. My mama has some of it, and I never did like it. But I've got a little concern about painting this thing. I don't know how well paint's going to stick to that glossy finish and that plasticky kind of laminate. So, I don't know, we'll see. I didn't tell her that I was concerned about it, but I did tell her that I don't think it could look any worse. So anyhow, here's the way I'm going to attack this thing. I'm going to start with some 220 sandpaper, and I'm going to sand that real good and try to knock that gloss down and rough it up a little bit, and then come in here with some of this Enduro sanding sealer. And if I can get about 3 good coats of this on here, and if this will stick and hold real good, I'll have a great deal of confidence that this paint will adhere real well. I've used this combination a lot, and I know that once this goes down and holds real good, that the paint's going to stay on it real good. So, like I said, 2 or 3 coats of this, real good coats. And I'm going to come in here with this antique white General Finishes paint. I'll take some of this extender, and I'll use this to kind of thin it down and slow that drying time down so that, you know, that paint will settle down and dry real good and have a good finish. Of course, everything that I do, I'm going to be shooting out of my HVLP sprayer. And if I can get about 4 or 5 really good coats of this paint on there, then I'm going to come in here with this high performance water-based poly. This is a gloss color. And I'm going to lay this poly to it. I'm going to use this whole can. There'll be so much poly on there that paint will be there till the devil comes back. So that's kind of how I'm going to attack it. And I don't know how it's going to turn out. If this project blows up, I guess I'll be going to Big Lots and buying her something a whole lot nicer than this. But I've got my fingers crossed, and we'll hope that this turns out really good and, you know, really restores this dresser and leaves her with a memento of her mama and all that kind of stuff. So let's get started. Now I'm going to hit this thing with some sanding sealer. Let's talk about how I'm going to thin this paint down. This is General Finishes antique white paint, and it's pretty thick. And as it is now, it's too thick to spray out of the HVLP sprayer. So I'm going to do 2 things to kind of thin this down. First, I'm going to use just plain water out of the tap. And the other thing that I'm going to use is this extender. And this isn't really a thinner. What this does is it kind of lets that paint settle down. Once you spray it on your surface, it'll let that paint kind of settle down, and it slows down the drying time, but it will thin it down a little bit too. So really, you know, there's a science behind this. You can use a viscosity cup and figure all this out scientifically, but the truth is I've done it so many times, you just kind of get a feel for it. So I'm gonna put about I don't know, about 16 ounces of paint in this mixing cup. And I wish somebody would invent a better daggone paint can that doesn't make such a mess when you try to pour it. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put maybe 10% water in this. And I can't really do that math, but I don't know how many ounces I'd be at now. And I'm just going to kind of mix this up. And the last thing I'm going to do that's really scientific is I'm going to take just a couple of 3 squirts of this. I don't know how much that is, but however much 2 or 3 good squirts of that stuff is. So now it looks like I'm up to about, I don't know, about 22 ounces. So however that formula works out, and I'm just going to mix it up real good. And here in a minute I'll show you what you end up with as far as, you know, kind of a proper thickness to shoot out of your spray gun. See, it's getting there right here. That's getting pretty close. And actually I may have just hit it just right the first time. Sometimes you might have to put a little bit of paint back in to thicken it up some, or a little more water. It's just, I don't know. The best way to learn how to do this is use a viscosity cup a time or two, and then just shoot paint. And your paint gun will tell you if it's right or wrong. See how that's just kind of flowing off of there? That's about right. That might be a little bit thin. I'm going to be using a pretty big needle in the spray gun, so I could probably thicken this up a little bit. But you're getting the idea of what I'm saying. Something about like that. That's about what you need to shoot out of that spray gun. Do you kind of see how that's flowing off? I mean, it's not real thin, but it's thin enough that it's going to go through that spray gun just fine. So that's all there is to mixing up paint. Okay, it's time to lay the paint to it. So let's see what happens on this. Now it's moment of truth time. I'm going to lay this poly to it and see how it goes. It's really hot out here today, so this poly is going to dry just about as quick as it hits. So I'm going to lay it on there and see how it turns out. Well, it's all done now, and it turned out pretty good. That paint actually stuck pretty good to the surface once I got that sanding sealer on it. So I put about 10 coats of paint and about 10 or 15 coats of polish, so it ought to stand the test of time. I was really pleased with how it turned out. She already loaded it up and she started home with it, and she forgot to bring the drawers with it, so I can't, you know, get a picture of it right now, but I'll have her take some once she gets home, and I'll fade it into the video so you can see what it looks like. So overall, I spent, you know, half a day on this, and it wasn't too bad. And the good news is I think I've recharged my Brownie Point account, so all's good there. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe got some ideas of your own on how you can restore Mama's dresser and paint plastic furniture. As always, if you enjoyed the video, remember to give me a thumbs up, leave me some comments, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.